Hello and welcome. I'd like to welcome everyone. Hello, everyone. As you know, welcome back to Black Digital Media TV. As you know, I'm Laurent Barber, and I have my wonderful co-host Wells Holtz, and we're really excited about today. We have a great special guest that during our pre-talk for the show. It's Mrs. Monique Williams, and her specialty, and she's an expert in holistic healthcare. But the interesting thing that I found out when we got ready to talk with Mrs. Williams is I had no idea how broad or how widespread holistic self-care is until after we talked with her. So I'm really excited about this, and hopefully you all enjoy it as well too. And Gina?
And like Laurent said, I'd love to welcome Monique Williams to the show. I've followed Monique for, I don't know, several years on Facebook. And it's when Laurent decided to put this platform together, I said, you know what, I was going through all of the different people I've known and met through Facebook, and I've followed the businesses, and I said, you know what, Monique has to come on here because I'm hearing an echo.
I don't hear it.
You don't hear it?
You may have to turn your volume down.
Make sure that it's not my phone. I think my phone is down though.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not my phone.
Okay, let's just make sure.
Let me just make sure. Are we good there? Is that better? Yeah, no echo.
I'm not hearing an echo.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, as I was saying, I followed Monique for several years on Facebook, and I knew that I wanted to have her on because this is a topic that needs to be discussed, especially during this time of COVID and with all of the mental health issues that we're hearing about. And so, one of the first questions I'm going to ask is, how did you get into this as a business?
Okay.
I know that there's always a story behind why people do what they do, right? So what's your story?
So my story is that I was a women's services nurse. So I worked in L&D, mother, baby, and NICU. And in 2009, we had it wasn't called a pandemic, it was an epidemic, and it was H1N1 virus. And while I was working in a clinical setting, I contracted it. And about 3 months after I contracted it, I had what they called lingering symptoms, but they're lifelong symptoms that I'm suffering with now. And so it created a range of symptoms from neuromuscular to joint pain, generalized anxiety, depression, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic bronchitis. I have a couple of things I'm dealing with now. And on that journey, I realized that even in the midst of that, I wasn't taking care of myself. Even though I was a nurse and I was taking care of my patients and everybody in my life, I lacked truly taking care of myself and even ignored some of those symptoms just because that's just what I did. And that started me on my own self-care journey. And on that journey, I connected with a lot of women who were going through the same thing that I was going through. And I realized they lacked taking care of themselves as well. And that's how I got into being a self-care advisor and life strategist.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know. I knew about the fibromyalgia part, but I didn't know how you got into that. And it's always amazing to hear, because that's how my journey to where I am now got started, was because of a chronic illness diagnosis, or several of them actually. So it's usually something major like that takes us to really get to, I guess, doing what I consider to be our soul's purpose, because I'm sure that's how you look at it right now. You look back at what you were doing before and you thought, yes, that was my calling, but this is truly what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, all my life, I just knew I would be a healer when it came to the medical aspect. I knew I was going to work in women's services. I knew I was going to help women deliver their babies. And, people would say, no, you can't do that. You haven't been in the field. You're a new grad. I went right into it. And I truly believe that from birth, that was my calling. I still work with those types of clients. However, my healing wasn't to be in the clinical setting. It was to be on the outside world, to really take care of a person holistically versus I'm just going to be with you at this moment when you deliver your baby, but to help them actually thrive for a lifetime. So it's interesting how that works out.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
One question. What do you think people think about when you say self-care? What is like what do you think people, because for me, let me tell you what, when I say self-care, I think people automatically think it's, you have to be like lying in a tub filled with water, some Epsom salts, maybe a couple of herbs and essential oils thrown in, and just, you take your 40 minutes and you just kind of escape the world. A lot of people think that's what we're talking about, self-care, but I know that you have a much wider and more in-depth version of self-care. So give us the kind of a breakdown and then.
Yeah, most people think self-care is just a temporary high. It's something that you do in additional to your life. So that can be bubble baths, getting your hair done, nails done, going out to dinner, receiving gifts, things of that nature, or either just unplugging from their life and doing something, a mini vacay, because that's what we've been conditioned to think. But actually, a self-care is taking care of every single thing that relates to your life. If it has an effect on your life and your quality of life and how you experience this world, that is a part of your self-care. And it's not always a temporary pleasure. Sometimes it can be a long-term uncomfortableness until you reach pleasure. However, it is everything in your life that creates pure bliss in this world that you take care of. Mm-hmm.
Now, I have written down three main things. There's spiritual aspect, physical aspect, and the emotional aspect. But you say there's a whole lot more than just those three.
Yeah. So when I am working with people, I look at the whole person. And when you think about the whole person, you have 8 pillars. Now, you might go and research. Some people have to say it's 13, 24, but they all can combine into 8 pillars. And that's your physical health, your mental and your emotional health, your spiritual health, your financial health, your social health, your professional health, and also your intellectual, what some people call your educational self-care. So you're thinking about your physical body, you're thinking about your safety, you're thinking about your thoughts and your beliefs, how you're reacting and interacting in this world when it comes to a mental level. You're thinking about how can you even obtain the things that you want in your life. So you're thinking about your finances. You're thinking about every relationship. That's the social self-care, whether it's romantic, whether it's your employee, employer, your friends, your kids, strangers that you don't know of, is a part of your self-care. Professional, we're talking about your career and your business. What type of skills do you have? What does your resume look like? How can you make money? Is that a part of your natural gifts, or is that a new skill that you want to learn? You're talking about your intellect. Until the day you die, you should be learning. So if you think about it, and we're talking about all these things, just by saying it, even though it's 8 pillars, you realize they all coexist with each other, right? So you can't talk about your professional self-care and your career and not connect it with your financial self-care, because that's how you get your wages. That's how you get your money, or how you're spending your money. And also that connects with your physical self-care, because how can you do your job if you're not in good health or good strength, right, or can move around or do what you need to do, right? So you see how they all commingle. You need coworkers. You might need workers. So there goes your social self-care added into that. You can't have a business. I mean, you could with one person, but you're going to want somebody to assist you. Or you might need someone to clean your home. So you see how all of these tie together. That's why I say it's so important to look at it holistically. The world had taught us that it's external. It's not a part of you, but it is a part of you. It defines how you truly experience this life. So yes, that's self-care.
And that was a mouthful right there. So I'm going to kind of put in a couple points from that. Okay. Social self-care in the time of COVID. What have you seen as the challenges there? Because there are a few times when there was a lockdown, we couldn't. Our social interaction was basically like this, using our technology.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think? Let's talk about mental health and the social aspects of it during this time. How do you see people as nurturing that aspect of it?
The social. Well, what happened with COVID is that a lot of people didn't realize what actually they truly needed when it came to people in their life until they had to be isolated at home. Because what a lot of people did is they went to work, or you were with your kids, or you with your friends, and even though you might have had fun with them, sometimes they occupy your time, and you think you have relationships or connections with people, and you truly don't. They're just pretty much there because you're comfortable. So think about work when you go to work. I'm not saying people do not form relationships at work, but what I'm saying is if you go somewhere every day, these people become familiar. And so you think you have a connection with them. Then you get isolated. And what people tend to do is when you're isolated, you're going to pick the people that you feel like you're closest with. So once you were isolated at home, you begin to realize that you didn't really have relationships with people that you thought you had. You thought you had friends, and now they're not, reaching out to you, or you're not reaching out to them. Your kids thought they had friends or associates, and these people are not reaching out, and now you're feeling lonely. Or you beginning to realize that you had an unhealthy connection with people. They were feeling a need when you really need to have a relationship with you. Or you need to address different relationships, because what a lot of other people dealt with is when they got home, they thought they had happy homes and happy relationships, and then they realized they don't really like their kids or their partner as much as they think, because they're in and out. And that's not a bad thing, because everybody's an individual. But what people realized in this COVID area is what they had to face when it came to relationships. Now people are truly defining the type of relationships they want. They're realizing if they had a boundary or a lack of a boundary. They're realizing how they're needing to communicate with people and understand people and have compassion. I think this is a time that most people start to recognize just how important mental health is. Because it was easy to hear people talk about it and you'd be like, well, what's their problem? All they need to do is go out and hang out. I mean, you've heard that before. They need to get around new people. Well, when you're stuck at home and you're in quarantine, how is that possible? And you realize the source is inner with you. And so when it comes to the mental health care, people are really now realizing the hard questions they need to ask themselves, and not what other people are doing, but what they're doing. What do I need? How did I even function without having the appropriate relationships that I wanted? How was I not able to speak and tell people what it was I needed? How was I not able to tell people that this hurts me, or this is my happiness, or all these other things that come with a relationship? Mm-hmm.
Well, wow. I'll definitely say, Ms. Williams, that I'm still astonished. I'm still amazed at your title, your profession, and you said holistic healthcare. When Gina first talked, she says, "LaRon, what do you think self-care is?" And like you said earlier, it's just, you're running, you're eating. You're just trying to make sure you're healthy. But then, like you said, you just went through all this litany of things, and every single one of these things are so vitally important to your health. But it's interesting that you say, because during the pandemic, during this situation, you really find out, even just in relationships. And then you find out from finding out about those relationships, you find out if those relationships, in whatever way they may be, business, personal, friends, are they healthy? Are they healthy for you? And I think at this time of being in isolation, it really gives you a chance to really think about, okay, is this healthy for me? Yeah. And one thing I realized, and like you said, the holistic health care is very important for your long-term mental, stability, just to make sure you get these things resolved, be it work, be it friends, career, whatever. These things are very, very important. So I'm so happy to hear you speak to these things and you're very much a professional. You're very much a professional. You're very knowledgeable. So hopefully everybody that can relate to what you're saying and just see the in depth of what you're saying when you say holistic healthcare. It's very deep.
And, you know, a lot of people I've noticed, they don't want to really talk about it because, like I said, when you think about that and you think about relationships and you start becoming self-aware, that's not pleasurable, you know? So people don't want to address it because, you know, we've been conditioned. Self-care is luxury. It is a luxury, but it's, you know, we want to continuously say luxury is this high-end great thing. You're on a high all the time. But to have the luxury to be self-aware of a relationship is not working. That's a luxury. There's some people that will die and never figure out that they were surrounded by people that they shouldn't have been surrounded by. That's a luxury. It's a luxury to be able to say, you know what, I've been taking care of my physical body. I know people who take care of their physical body, but do not go get wellness checks. Well, I have muscles. I'm slim and I eat clean. That doesn't mean your body is reacting to it appropriately. Everybody's body is different. I have taken care of patients who came in that were 500 pounds and the world considered to be unhealthy, that was more healthy than a person that was in the gym every day.
Yeah.
So luxury is not just included with buying the most expensive things, going to the most, you know, expensive spa and having this ambiance of just pure harmony. It's about doing the work to get to, you want to get to that. That is a goal. That's the desire you want to have. And it's subjective, but you have to start from the beginning and work your way up. Because if not, you're going to continuously start a cycle of mistakes. Or you're going to always feel like you're lacking in something because you didn't address exactly why you needed it. Why you need it. What is the reason for changing it? Why is this invaluable to me? Why do I need to live this life of happiness and peace and thriving? Not just I woke up today and I wanted to do something, but why do you need to do it?
Right.
Why is it of value to you? Why does it have to be luxury for you? And then it becomes a long-term thing that you maintain versus I'm changing my mind all the time because it just sounded like it was good for right now. Self-care is not just doing the thing because it sounds good. Self-care is doing the thing because it is good.
You know, I did a program 2019. No, 2020. And for 3 months out of it, we did what's called shadow work. And I'm sure you're familiar with that term, Monique. That's, you know, we really dove into this stuff about us that we kind of hide from ourselves and from people that we really don't like, and we just would rather not think about it and just leave it alone. But it's when you start to deal with all of that junk and really process it, and you said, okay, let's let this stuff go, that's where all of the pleasure finally comes, you know? But a lot of people don't want to do that work. Because it is just that, it is work. Yeah, and there's a lot of tears. You cry a lot.
Cry, yeah. I've been there before. You know, I think, and I know you two have heard it before, and the people who are listening, you know, one thing I despise hearing people say is your past doesn't define you. And I think that's ignorant, personally, because your past does define you. You can't run away from your past. You can't erase your past. You can rewrite your future by changing what's in the present. But who I am today and who you are today, I could have not even got where I am today without who I was in my past, without the experiences I had in my past, without what my family went through in the past and their experiences and sharing it with me, or my friends or my coworkers or whatever. Who I am and me being greater every day is based on who I was yesterday or who I was before you hit live on this screen. you know.
It's true.
So you can't run away from your past. You can deal with it in certain ways. I think a lot of people should invest in therapy or be more self-aware, but you cannot even really come up with a self-care plan for you to thrive in life without understanding who you are and why you are who you are and what parts of you that are awesome. I think we're just like, there's parts of us that are freaking awesome. There are parts of us that have been buried because the people who we were placed in their lives did not know how to get those parts to thrive or couldn't accept it, right? So think about your family or your parents. They raise you up in the way you should go according to what they felt like was good for them, right? And so a lot of us have some great qualities. We have great desires and all of these things inside of us that we haven't even tapped into yet because somebody told us it's not how you're supposed to do it or how you're not supposed to feel, or don't share that with anybody. Don't let anybody know that part. You know, keep things to yourself because that's not what fits in society. But it's not about fitting in society. It's about being who you were supposed to be when you were born. And anybody can learn from anything from you. And you cannot know that unless you know yourself. And there's so many people running around who just, they don't absolutely know themselves. They only show themselves that society has said was great. But they haven't even tapped into themselves first to even figure out who they are, to even really take good care of themselves. Yeah.
So Gina, because we're kind of into it right now, but can you just kind of restate or just kind of mention Mrs. Monique, why you brought her on, her background, just for those that's coming on right now that may not have was with us this morning or a little bit earlier, but just kind of say the reason that you felt it was important to have her. I think that would be a good time to refresh that.
Well, the main reason is I know what your business is about. It's about self-care. But to be honest, I didn't know until, when we had the meet and greet, just how in depth you really went when dealing with self-care. And that's why I felt that you really need to come on, because I had my own personal journey with chronic illness, being diagnosed with lupus, fibromyalgia was one of them. Neuropathy was another one. I was also diagnosed with emphysema many years ago, that was upgraded from what they thought was asthma. So I went through numerous diagnoses till eventually I got the lupus diagnosis. And for me, it was almost kind of a relief, but at the same time, it made me kind of go, well, when you go to the doctor, they always ask you, well, who in your family has this? Well, nobody. So how was I so blessed to have received this, this diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up having to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of digging to really determine, and 2 or 3 years ago, I finally got like what they call a clean bill of health, basically that there was no sign of lupus in my body. But it took a lot of work getting up to that point. And I followed you, and I knew about the fibro part of it, and I knew about your business in self-care, but I didn't know like all of the detail, and I really knew that you could help a lot of people. I knew you were helping a lot of people out there, but I think this was a message during this time, especially, that really needed to come. And just before I did kind of that recap, you were basically kind of talking about, reinvention as part of your self-care, because I was actually an art and sculpture teacher in a private school before my diagnosis. And then that led up to going part-time, because I had gotten so sick that I literally would go to work, come back and crash. And I would spend about 3 hours just kind of recovering from the teaching in order to be able to cook dinner for my kids. I couldn't even play with my kids. I would sit at the window and watch them playing outside. And that was the main trigger for me to really get my butt here, was when I watched my kids and I kept telling them, I can't come and play with you, because I was just constantly hurting. I'd gotten to a point where I was using a walker. I was using a cane a lot. If I went grocery shopping, it was a motorized chair. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but because they see me now, and it's like, there's no way that you had all of this stuff going on, right? So I really needed people. And,
people now,
and self-care was huge.
Yeah,
I could show pictures. Self-care was a huge part of this, and the money part didn't really hit me until you were speaking about it, because when I ended up quitting work, I had all of this money in my retirement account, and I went in. I wasn't even really thinking about that, but I went into the unemployment office, and I said, I need to file unemployment because I'm not working anymore, and I have all of these illnesses that I'm dealing with. And they looked at me, you have to fill out a form, and then they ask you, there's a spot that says, do you have any retirement accounts, 401k, 403b, whatever. And I'm there like, not wanting to lie, because somebody actually told me to do that. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And they said, well, if you have a 403b retirement account, you have to basically use that, live on until you can apply for unemployment. But the thing is, what they don't tell you is that if you have a ton of money in there and you can live for years in your retirement account, by the time you go back to apply for unemployment, your time has run out.
Yeah.
So I had enough in there that took me for a number of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really think about that being as part of the whole self-care part until you mentioned that. Yes, the financial aspect of it is a huge part of self-care. And the whole my reinvention came about from watching my kids, and then I ended up going to an herbalist one Saturday morning, because I was on about 15 different pharmaceuticals, and I wanted a more natural way of doing things. And that morning I got up, took my usual things, pharmaceutical stuff, went to the herbalist, passed out in her store, ended up in the emergency room for my doctor there to tell me these two medications that you took should never have been taken together. And I basically said, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
So that kind of propelled me into herbalism. I became a master herbalist, I think about it just over a year ago. And then I started studying aromatherapy and all of this other stuff that really, really helped. So, here I am, this art teacher. I still do art therapy, but art teacher now becoming, taking on a whole different form of art, I guess, so to speak, because I do consider being able to merge different herbs together to create, a certain result that is a form of art. So that's a little bit of where I came from. And then when I started to follow you, I said, yes, you need to come on this show. People need to hear all of this, Yeah,
I know. Just listen to your story. I know that all too well, that I don't want these medications. To accepting what is going on, to trying to find a more holistic approach, a natural way to treat it, to realizing your money is gone. Because you got to think about it. I went back to college late. So I graduated with an 18-month-old on my hip at 26. And so I was only like 7-8 years into the nursing field. And I was like, okay, I'm doing great things. I'm checking everything off the list that I want. I had finally hit those 6 figures. And, when you get sick and you can't work, it's something called short-term and long-term disability. And my income was cut in half. And I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to what am I supposed to do? And then after a year or two, it got even smaller. And it was over half. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have a house, I have a kid, I have these cars and things. And like you were saying, I tapped into 401ks and stuff. And it was just like, how's this going to work now? Now I wouldn't have cared so much if I didn't have anything medically going on. But I went from someone being totally healthy to being on like 12 meds and having to go to like 6 doctors every month. I was at the doctor pretty much every week and going to physical therapy. And now I have more bills than I did before. How is this supposed to work? So self-lack hit me hard. It wasn't self-care anymore. It was self-lack. and revamping myself and making a new normal. Okay, Monique, you got to make a new normal. And I'm good at adapting and resilient. And I can strategize. The great thing is I had a grandmother who was born in 1924. And so I did things like from the Great Depression. I had things stored up. I know how to do things homemade. I know how to tap and do natural treatments. I know how to make something out of nothing. And that's a skill. That's a professional skill. A lot of things with my self-care, my mental and my emotional, my physical, my grandmother, even though it wasn't called that, it was survival mode. I know a lot of people hate hearing that because I talk about thriving, but to thrive, you have to know how to survive too, because you have to find it. And so that itself allowed me to really, really embody self-care, because I had to learn me. I had to learn what was inside of me. You're professional, and I see this a lot. When you build your life and you have goals, you can easily forget what's inside of you because you're so focused on embodying this other person who can do everything. When you have the money available, money grants you pretty much everything. When people say money is not, it doesn't give happiness, they lie. They didn't have enough to get what they wanted, because money grants you opportunities for everything, from the quality of food to where you can go in this world, different cultures. People pay to get in rooms. Like money solves everything. And and that's a basic necessity to me. It's like food. You need money. We don't live in a world that you can go for free. I know people talk about people on government assistance, but somebody had to give that. It might not have been from you, but somebody had to have a source of money to help someone. This world operates on money. And if you operate on a certain level with money and have access to different people, places, and things, and it's taken away from you, you got to tap into what you know. Yeah. And so I was lucky to learn me, study me, and realize, girl, there's a lot of things in you that you forgot, that you took for granted because you were privileged to outsource and pay and not worry about these things. Even though I was lacking in taking care of myself and taking care of other people, I still had the privilege to say, when I was tired and I could ignore myself, when I was in pain, I can just go pay for some food. I can go pay for somebody to cook it, pay for somebody to clean my house. And now I can't. So now what is in to create this new normal with the basics that I have? I truly, it's in the valley when you truly get to learn what's inside of you, who you are, what skills you have, use those and build on them, and how you can obtain more. I learned more about taking care of myself in that valley. Whatever that looks like for you. That was my valley. But for other people, their valley might be making $500,000 a year. And you're like, gosh, that's a lot of money. But for somebody who was making $3 million and you go to $500,000, you're in the valley. That's why I say luxury is subjective, self-care is subjective, but that's when you truly learn yourself. And I learned that some of the things that I was paying for was unnecessary. So I was spending financially, I was spending physically, because you get a cost from everything. I was spending intellectually because I wasn't using some of the skills that I knew, because I felt like I didn't have to. Why do I need to maintain those skills? I don't have to. But now I get back to me and I'm doing self-care, and I realize those are things that I truly needed. And I love, even now, some of those things that I had to pick up, I still do them because I realize I actually love it. Cooking, I love cooking.
Yeah.
I love being a homemaker.
I became a vegan last year, and then I realized that I loved it so much. And over the last year, I decided, well, if I'm actually doing this thing, I might as well just go ahead and get certified in it. So I got a certification as a vegan nutritionist. You might as well, right? So
and look what birthed out of it. You start taking care of yourself, right? And you birth something you love. Now somebody can pay you to do something you love. That's like the true ease of life. Before, I wanted to be a nurse. I had to get college debt, and I'm thankful. Do not get me wrong. I'm thankful for the nursing and for my degree. It gave me the money that I needed at the time. But when I discovered that I could cook, like I knew I could cook, but to know that I like it, and sometimes I'm just baking something, like one day I just bake something, it helps me mentally, it calms my anxiety. And a friend walked in and she just bought the cake. I was like, that's not for sale. And she was like, here. And she just had to be money left. Something that I like doing anyway brought ease and flow. And I only learned that because I started taking care of myself and realizing the things that I truly like. And then people just want to support that.
Yeah.
And ease and flow. It makes life true. When you truly tap into holistic self-care, it truly makes life easy. You'll be like, this is unbelievable. Nobody's going to believe this, because I've been taught that life is to work hard, to aim for all of these things. Like if you don't go through some type of hardness, it's not worth it. And then when you start to really take care of yourself, you're like, man, I didn't even really do nothing. I wasn't even really thinking. And this is how I get reimbursed for it? Wow, I should have been taking care of myself then. Unless you told me this like 30 years ago, I would have been doing it. I mean, the quality of friendships and everything changed, because then I realized I didn't want people around me who always complained all the time. Prior to that, I had people around me who complained all the time. And guess what I did with them? Because I was stressed and worried, I complained with them too. Girl, I know how you feel. Like, yes, talk to the boys. And then after I started taking care of myself, I was like, you know what? If we're not talking about how can we go experience something different, or what made you happy today, or what did you read and learn, and then I can learn from you, I just did not want to be a part of it. I just did not. Because if I did, it started to affect everything. It started to affect my physical health. And with fibromyalgia, I try to be stress-free, right? Once I started to set boundaries and eliminate people, my life was really stress-free. The minute somebody comes in, they don't need 2 minutes and they got to go, because you're already irritating me. And now I feel achy because you're talking. Like, it's truly honest. It's like your intuition heightens. And it's like, I don't want to be a part of it, because now you're talking about it and now you're stressing me out. You got to go.
Yeah. And it's the same thing when it comes to me with food. I can, I know I get teased a lot about the kind of food that I eat, and there's certain foods that I eat on a regular basis, but you get to, like you mentioned, your intuition gets heightened, and I do what's called intuitive eating. I know what my body needs because my body tells me by the way that it feels, So there, at the beginning, the first 3 days of every month, except for this month, for the last, maybe 2-3 years, I have fasted the first 3 days of every single month. I have done 2 fasts that have lasted 40 days or more, not completely like going away from food, but very, very liquidy stuff, right? And it's because I got to that point where, intuitively I knew I needed to do it, right? So the first 3 days of every month, I fast water only. And if I can't do just water only, it's nothing but, like herbal tea with no sugar. But that's something, because my body needs that. And whatever foods I'm eating, I intuitively know what it's going to do to my body. So there's some things that I can stay away from. Like about 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, I kind of felt the nudge to become a vegan, right? And the first thing I thought about was, oh God, this is not gonna work, because I love my cheese. I love my cheese. Don't ask me to give up mozzarella. That's just like, no. And that was I want to say that was like October. And then in December again, just before the new year, I kept on feeling the nudge again. You need to go vegan. I'm like, I don't think you heard me the first time. You're asking me to give up cheese. Okay. I've given up meats. I've given meats up for years. But don't ask me to give up cheese. But come January the 1st, I gave up cheese, and I've given up cheese ever since.
But you see how that works. Like, see how you're talking and how that works. What I learned on my self-care journey was it slowed me down. And so I was raised in a high performance household, right? You gotta be a good student. better get your straight A's. You better be your best. You better look your best. I mean, nitpick everything. They got to be your best, right? And internally, I did not want to do it.
Yeah.
My spirit would say no, but then I would do it anyway. I just didn't feel like either hearing the lecture after, or I really started to believe that people did, like you had to be this type of person for people to understand you. So when I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, the first thing happened is my life slowed down dramatically. And so I had to be like in the present. And that was a weird place to be in because people would say, well, you just need to get up. You just need to move around. You see, because everybody around me is busy, right? But when my life slowed down and then I was left with me, and then I started to invest more in my mental health. I started to invest more in a relationship with God. Even though my life slowed down, it's almost like when you're watching a movie and you press pause, I started to see everything clearer. And like you were saying with your body, I started to realize if I ate certain food, I could be in the middle of the food, like eating, and get a reaction. Mm-hmm. Like I started to realize what different brands, what different restaurants, what type of meat, like I might eat this meat, I just can't get it from here, or this has to be organic, this doesn't have to be organic. I knew what affected my sleep and what did not affect my sleep. I knew what different people around me affect. Like if people laugh about, but it's true. Certain people in their bodies come in the room, I realized how my body reacted to it. I would get anxiety and be like, I haven't done anything for anxiety. Because you got to think about, I'm a nurse, right? So I'm like, what? I didn't do nothing. And I'll be sitting there and it will be my physical body literally saying, alert, alert, alert. Mm-hmm. You need to remove that, or you need to assess that. You need to caution. You need to pause. Even if I move my body a certain way, if I'm around people and they're like, let's go exercise. And I'm like, okay, 10 minutes, that's it for me. Because my body said no. Mm-hmm. It slowed me down in a world that's really, really fast. Mm-hmm. And with that slowdown, I've been learning like so much about the world and around me and how it affects me and how I react to it. It's very interesting.
So, Miss Monique, I want to definitely pay you a compliment, and I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna do it right here. and the compliment is this. I love this topic, and just your whole spirit, your whole demeanor. Mm-hmm. And me, I'm like you. I'm like a fast person. Everything has to keep going. Mm-hmm. Just talking to you, and I think if anybody is around you, mm-hmm. I think you've come to within yourself mm-hmm. that the way you do things, the way you speak to your holistic care, mm-hmm. not only for yourself but for other people. It's almost like you just draw people into you. You slow them down. They're just listening to you. And it's like you like this little thing that goes like this. Listen to me. So I want to give you that compliment. I think you definitely found your calling, and you've done a masterful job. Thank you. So I hope all those that's listening can really pay attention to what you're saying. And you've helped me just from a few days ago. I'm like, wow, she said some incredible things. So definitely, I really appreciate. I'm so happy you're with us today.
No, I really appreciate you. I need to hear that because. No, seriously, all my life I've been told to slow down means you're lazy. To slow down means you're content. To slow down means you don't really want it. Mm-hmm. And if you're in the world, you've heard that from the world. Mm-hmm. And like I said, as a kid, it didn't make sense to me. Like, why would I can't even really process things. Even though I'm very smart, I was like, I'm always moving. This doesn't even feel right. And to be forced to be still and thrive and can talk about it and share it. And for people to say, wow, you slowed me down and I now can understand. It makes my heart happy. It makes me know that what God was telling me all those years, it was right. It might not look right to the world, but that's what I was supposed to do. Because that's how I process the world. And other people need to see what I see from that side of the world. And so I just appreciate you for even bringing that up, because it lets me know that I am on the right path, and that it's nothing wrong with it, because people do need it. So yeah, I really do appreciate that.
Sometimes people say you miss your calling, but you definitely did not miss yours. You slowed down.
Yeah.
You honed it. You own it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing a fantastic job. So
Thank
definitely continue. Good guest, Gina. Good guest. And so, Miss Monique, why don't you just kind of share your business and your name of your business, and what it's called once again?
Yes, I founded the Holistic Self-Care Institute. And at my institute, I teach women how to actually create and implement their own self-care strategies according to the life that they want to live on their terms. And I base everything that I teach on those 8 pillars that we talked about when it comes to self-care. And I use my intuitive guidance from God to help them do just that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you want to reach out to me, I'm at holisticselfcareinstitute.com. Yes. And so I offer a group coaching program. We get together and we work on their life plan when it comes to their holistic self-care. I actually work with women one-on-one as well. And then there are people who come to me for intuitive guidance or advisement. So it's not necessarily a one-on-one or a group coaching program, but sometimes they're like, here's my issue. Can you kind of let me know? And then I do give them an intuitive guidance in that area. Mm-hmm.
So do you have people come to you for like business? Say, I want to start a business, but do you have people that speak specifically to business and says, hey, how can you help me kind of think things through, calm myself down? Is there people that come to you from that perspective as well?
I have had people who are in business that have come to me, because sometimes when they hear me, they're like, okay, are you a business coach or are you a life coach? They do come to me, but I specifically let them know I do not help you directly with your business. But what I do is I help you figure out if that's truly what it is that you want to do. Because what I've learned with the women that have come to me is that they want to start a business and they have this great business idea, but it was founded based on the stimulus that they've been getting from everybody, like on social media, saying it's a great idea. And before they invest in something that they really don't need, they come to me for clarity, just to figure out like what brings you joy. What brings you happiness when it comes to your professional skills or what you've already been doing or desired? Once they reach that clarity, then they have more of a foundation to actually discover what it is they want to do when it comes to their business. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, you need a life coach first before you get a business coach. And in a good way, because what happens is people get in business and then get a life coach. But you need to know about your life before you add a business with it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so that's how I give them the clarity. Like, let's figure out your life first. And then when you figure out your life, you can blossom into whatever business. Like we were talking about, I love to cook. Some people get with me and realize I don't really want to work with people in that type of way, but in a different way. And it saves them years, money, time investing in something that truly doesn't bring them pleasure.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned when we were doing our kind of meet and greet was that we were always co-creating with God.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is my belief. So I know everybody has different beliefs, and I value anybody's belief. So this is not to push belief on you, but I truly believe that we are co-created with God. So when you come into this world, you're a spiritual being, and you've been placed in this physical body, and this physical body allows your spiritual being to live out loud, right? And so I firmly believe that we are from the spiritual realm with God. And so there's no way you can detach yourself from God. You're a spiritual being. God is a spiritual being. He is omnipresent in everything and with everybody. So when you speak or you think or you desire something, God is right there with you. And that is your first source of guidance. Some people put a religion on it. Some people put whatever on that, but you co-create with God. So if you say, I desire this thing, and you speak it and he knows it, and you believe that, and you operate and I'm going to get that, because he's omnipresent and he's in everyone and everything in every place. If you pay attention and you increase your intuition and you work with people who are assigned by God to you to help you, you will get there easier. So you'll know who to connect with, whether it's a spiritualist, a self-care coach, employer, employee, or school or whatever it is. You exactly be able to connect with the people that you need to connect with, because God is co-creating with you. So there will be a person there who is co-creating with God, that if you speak something and you work and they see and you ask, the person who is assigned to help you get to that next step, they're there. Whether that's financially, whether that's giving a resource, whether that is supporting you, whether that's what some people call a soulmate. That's just not, a romantic person, but that's another thing. But they connect souls with you and they help you along the way on your journey to co-create the life that you truly desire. Yes, I firmly believe that. And you have to define what God is to you and really strengthen that relationship so you can get the guidance, because the answers are in you. So when you hear people say God is in you, the answers are in you. That's what they mean. You co-create. You're one with God. That's why it's so important to care for yourself and spend time with yourself and know who you are. You can start asking these questions to yourself. And as you're asking your questions to yourself, you're speaking to yourself and you're speaking to God. Now, when you speak to him and you begin to increase your intuition and you more aware of what you need and what you desire, you go out in the world and you create what you need with God, and he'll put the people, the places, and the things that you need there. But you have to know who you are so you can recognize it. And like LeBron was saying, don't miss your opportunity. People miss opportunities because they just truly don't spend the time with themselves that they need to figure out what they need. Mm-hmm.
And you would say that your spiritual self-care would be like the top layer that we should be working on first. Absolutely. That would be the most important.
Absolutely. If you,
one of the things,
you can do those other areas. I tell people all the time, progress is progress, whether it's progressing you in the wrong way or the not so, in the right way. Progress is you wasting time. Success, you can find success in things. But you'll find people who do that and then they'll be successful and hate their life, right? I know, people like that. Like, I've achieved some things, but I don't like my life, and they're achieving something else. Your spiritual self-care should be the top priority for everything that you do in your life, because that guides how you choose the choices that you make in the other areas of your life. Because you have to think, if you want to make it simple, because for some people, when you think about spiritual, they check out because they already think you're talking about Christianity or something or whatever.
Right.
It's not about you defining a religion or whatever. This is about you saying, I'm me. I love me. I want something for me. I'm going to form whatever relationship with God that looks like for me, so I can start making the choices that I need to make so my life can be great. If you want to make it simple, just say I'm having a relationship with myself so I can figure out what I need to do for me.
Yeah. See, a lot of people would look at that as being, with the whole me thing as being selfish, but not realizing that if you serve from a depleted part of you, that's not good. But I know there's a passage in the Bible. I wish I could remember where, but it basically talks about my cup runneth over. And it hit me one day that that's what it really means, is that you're supposed to serve from the overflow. You should always be full. And then you serve from your cup running over. Whatever runs over, that's what you serve from. You should not let your cup get depleted, because then, you end up with illnesses and all of this other stuff happening. So that's when I can distinctly remember the day that really hit me. That's what that means. But so many of us serve from, a depleted self and then wonder why we have all of these other issues that are going on.
Yeah,
So it's not about being selfish. It's about taking care of yourself so that you can serve other people better.
And I remember doing a live stream maybe a year ago. We were talking about relationships, right? Because when I was talking about God is omnipresent and he's in everyone, and people have a hard time telling people no. So it kind of brings up into that, because I was like, why do you have a hard time telling people no? And then people feel like, well, I'm obligated to do something. And I'm like, but if you do it and then the person doesn't respond the way you wanted them to, then you're mad about it. Why are you mad about it if you really wanted to do it? And it was like, oh, it's the right thing to do. And I said, okay, how do you feel when somebody does something for you and you can sense they had an attitude about it? Like you sense that they didn't really want to do it. They did it because they felt obligated. Do you feel good about that? So if it doesn't feel good to you and you're supposed to have a relationship with God, God doesn't want you giving him less than either. Again, you coexist with God and you're one with God, right? That's my belief. He don't want, God don't want that either. And so if he doesn't want it, and you coexist and he's with you, why you want it? Right? And so if you don't want anyone doing you that way, why do you feel like they want you in their life and you're doing them that way? So when you're empty and you're giving from an empty cup and you're like, I'm giving my all and I'm sacrificing, probably the reason why you're not getting a reaction from people that you want to is because they know you didn't really want to do it, but they're going to take it anyway. Who won't take it? I'll take it anyway. And then you're expecting them to be like, oh, hell to you because you gave your all. They know you didn't want to do that, but you felt obligated to. If you start looking at it from that way, it'll be easier for you to say, no, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to. Because why would I give you something I didn't want to? That doesn't feel good. You transfer that energy because you don't want anybody doing you that way. When you start to define it that way, you start to treat yourself even better because you're like, I don't want nobody treating me that way. And then when you don't want anybody else to treat you that way, you're definitely not going to treat yourself that way. You expect people to treat you how you treat yourself.
So Miss Monique, how would you, and in this time of the pandemic, everyone's isolated right now, what would you recommend to those that's watching? And they're just trying to find out, okay, I'm by myself. I'm isolated. All these things are going on in my head. What would you begin to recommend at this point in time to help someone just begin to start that process to really truly find themselves and weed out those things? What would you recommend to that person at this time that's sitting there? But even they may be isolated, this might be a good time for you to really do this kind of a health check, wellness. What would you recommend?
It's the best time. Now, I do understand that some people have a love language and they need to be around people. So I'm not saying, you're supposed to suffer. So there are two things I suggest for people right now. If you have insurance or if you don't have insurance and you have a job, I suggest you look into their employee assistance program. I think most people call it that, and look into some therapy. Right? Because some people, you need to get these thoughts out of your head because it might be very well that you have these thoughts and they're just thoughts. They're not like facts. A lot of us play movies in our head and we come up with these things. So you need to get out your head. So if you do have insurance or you have the means to pay out of pocket, or if you don't, contact employee assistance or any other assistance provided to you and try to get some therapy. Just so you can kind of, talk out your feelings, let them know, I need to figure out how to cope with this, how to interact for those people that need to have like a connection with someone to get through it. For those of you who are more like introvert like me, and you're pretty good at self-evaluating, you want to be more self-aware, I always tell people to journal. So this is not going to be a journal where it's all fancy. I don't want you to go decorate nothing. So this is not about no goal journal. This is not about no future scripting journal. This is literally you writing everything that's going on with you every day. How did you feel when you wake up? How did you respond? What happened when you were with your family? Like, you just want to give a detail of your entire day, every day, how you feel, why were you feeling that way? And then every week you want to go back and read your autobiography. This is your autobiography. Because sometimes we visualize, because we're living in this life in the visual, we visualize that we think this is how life is going. But when you go back after it's passed and you read, you actually get to really see what's going on in your life. Because now you're telling yourself what's going on versus you're assuming the day of. Because the present is great. Present time is great. But if you're not really clear about your life and you're not conscious of what you're thinking, what you're experiencing in the present might not be necessarily true. And so just journal, keep it, go back, read, and just really read it from the perspective of I'm reading somebody else's life and not mine. Now you're less judgmental of yourself. You're extending grace to yourself. And you'll begin to realize, well, I was feeling this way when I interacted with certain people, or I was in this certain situation, or when I ate this certain thing or watched this certain movie. Then you begin to figure out like, oh, well, maybe these are not the people I need to be with. Or maybe I overanalyze things. Maybe I don't know how to control my emotions. Or maybe, I'm eating due to my emotions. Or maybe I'm isolating myself. That's a great way to study yourself. But again, if you cannot do that, because I know for some people that would be a trigger, a trauma trigger. If they're reading it and they get sad, you need to seek a therapist or someone you trust. And I advise someone that's not a family member or a friend or your church if they know you. I know that's odd, but if they know you, they're going to be biased.
I just want to say this while you're at that point right there, Ms. Monique. That was if I'm looking down, that means I'm writing, okay? But that was an important question I was going to ask you as you were going through that. You was talking about insurance. Should a person get ready to do this, take this outside the confines of their loved ones, family members, church, as ladies would say, their girlfriends, guy friends, someone who doesn't know you, that they can give you unbiased input to help you on this journey. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was a question that I was really, should I take this outside of just someone that I know, a husband, a spouse, or something, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. For me, it would be a girlfriend, not a boyfriend. So I'm just saying that was a question that I was going to ask. So I'm glad you mentioned that part. Take it outside.
Because what can happen, even if you're in an intimate relationship, right? You can be transitioning or growing within yourself. And the person you with might think they know you. And internally, you're becoming somebody else. And you might not voice it, but they might realize that you might do things a little bit different, or you might be a little bit more quiet or something. What's wrong with you? Or you don't want to participate in things. You haven't voiced it yet, but inside of you, you're having this whole thing of, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this place. It's more like I want to do something different. And to try to tell somebody who knows you that you're different, oh, you're just going through a phase. What's wrong with you? You don't even like that, right? And you're like, but really inside, I'm really like, don't want to do this anymore. And then they're just looking at you like you're just having a moment. But if you go to someone who doesn't know you, they don't care who you was yesterday. They're listening to what you're saying now and what you said that has been happening and what you want. And then they're just only going to be focused on what it is that you want. Versus somebody trying to keep you who you are because it makes them comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you're changing, now they're like, oh my God, what do you mean you're changing? Is that a good thing?
Transformation versus comfort, right?
Yeah.
And then you mirror. So the people who are closest to you, you mirror them. If you start saying that you want to change, instead of them saying, I'm going to support you, because again, we're all spiritual beings. We react to everything. The first instinct, natural instinct, is going to be, so you trying to say I need to change? You trying to say something wrong with me? Oh, you think you're changing. So what does that mean about me? And that doesn't have a reflection on you, but that's natural instinct for people to be like, oh, so they're growing? So what is that I'm being left being left behind, and they take it in a wrong way, and it's not intentional. But for your sanity and to keep peace in your home or with your friends or whatever, don't involve them in it. If that's going on in your mind, find someone who is responsible enough to help you process that, and they won't judge you according to who you're supposed to be, but what you're
One of the things I wanted to mention when you were talking about the journaling was, one of the things I do is I have a gratitude journal, and I write 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for every single day. I also have a gratitude jar that I have, and there's tiny strips of I cut and I write down, something could happen, like now I just write down something and I drop it in. And at the end of the year, you go through and you read these. And I find that that just really, really put things in perspective for me.
Yeah. So I have my
when I do the journaling.
Yeah, I have my gratitude jar too. Again, it's about forgetting. When we think about the past, we think about 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. We forget a lot of things on a daily basis. So, like things that we think are insignificant. Again, I love living in the present, but you literally have to slow yourself down even more to process every moment. There are a lot of things that might be blessings that we just take for granted. That's why I said when you journal, or the gratitude jar that you were talking about, because I have one. When you write as soon as something happens, or you record yourself, as you know, we're in the age of technology, you might make a note in your phone or voice record, and you'd be like, nothing's working for me right now. I'm just stressed and I'm overwhelmed. And then you go back and you read your gratitude list, or you read your journal, and you realize that you missed something. That it was just, you just took it for granted, but it really helped you get to where you are right now. And that could have been yesterday. It could have been next week, but it was something that you seen as so insignificant, but really it was a great thing for your life so you can move forward. Yeah, I totally think people should do that. However, there are some people that your mind is so cluttered. I mean, it's like affirmations. You can speak affirmations every morning. But if your mind is cluttered with things that are truly bothering you, you're saying affirmations in vain. You have to be in a mental space to accept what you're saying. I know plenty of, I work with people, they be like, I'm grateful for 5 things. And you be like, the next day, what were those 5 things? They don't remember because they're still cluttered mentally of all the negativity that is going to them, the negativity or the obstacles that are going on in their life. And until they can like declutter that, again, when we're talking about self-care and people just adding stuff to their life and getting really busy, that's something they added to their life to get busy, and it's not effective because they didn't really get to the root of what they need to work on with themselves. That's why when I say if you're just now starting journaling, don't go into the fancy stuff about one gratitude journal, one physical health journal. No, just journal what is going on with you every day and make it simple. Once you can unpack that, become more self-aware, and start to realize the things that you need to change, then you have more clarity about you. Then you can say what it is that you need and desire. Then you can get more specific and say, I know I need to work on my health. And the reason why is because I was overweight, or I was stressed, or I, high blood pressure. Now you can have a specific journal about your physical health. If you discover it was because you never realized how blessed you were, gratitude. Then when you have clarity, you can have a gratitude journal. But don't add, affirmations and rituals and stuff. You're adding more work and you don't even know why you're adding it. You're just thinking it's going to temporarily or immediately, like an instant, answer your solution to your problem. Well, if you don't know the problem, how you even got a solution to a problem? You got to know what the problem is first. So that's why I say if you're a person and you're internal every morning or evening, whatever time you want to do it, you can write. Now, the spiritual world because I'm a spiritualist. Everything is about writing with your hands, but I'm a realist too. I'm realistic. Sometimes I can't even write because of my fibromyalgia. Record yourself talking. At the end of the night, hit the button on your phone and talk about your day, what happened. If you were crying, record yourself crying and whatever, and go back and listen to yourself later. See what was going on. And if you still can't process it, that's when the help comes in, the therapist or whoever is that's outside of your inner circle that can help you.
Well, Monique, we have gone through a lot. And I tell you, I wrote down a note when you said clutter, because that is something that I talk about. And I have one specific program that's all about decluttering. And a lot of people, when they think about clutter, is, like the environmental stuff, not realizing that it could also be mental and a host of other things. So maybe that is something we can bring in. I'll bring you on again and we'll talk about that in a part 2, because I know we've gone on just over an hour. But I want to say I so appreciate you coming on, and you've given us a lot to think about. So much to think about. And I'm sure that the people who are watching that, and for those of you who are watching, I know we didn't see any comments here, but I know that there are some. So we'll go back at the end of the video and we'll respond to all of those on YouTube as well as on Facebook.
Yes.
And I'll just say,
can you just tell everyone again the name of your website?
A website. Oh, okay. Yes. If you want to know more about me, it's holisticselfcareinstitute.com. I'm also on social media. So if you're looking for me on Facebook or Instagram, it's the Self-Care Immersion. So I'm there. And
can you repeat that? Can you repeat the web? Can you repeat it? The self-care. Repeat that again.
For the social media. Yeah. For social media, Facebook and Instagram, it's the Self-Care Immersion.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Miss Monique. I'm a tech guy, like I said, and Gina knows that. But sitting here listening to you, it's like you're the tech of healthcare. It's like you're the doctor of healthcare, and you did an excellent job. It's like you make me feel like I don't know what I'm thinking. Okay, I should be listening to you.
I tell people all the time, I make a joke, but I'm like a computer. I'm your strategist. You give me the info and I can analyze it in infinite ways, infinite possibilities. You just tell me and I'll help you.
You do an awesome job. You do an awesome job. And that's what this platform is for. What we aim to do on Black Digital Media is to promote Black businesses like yours. You don't have to be a movie star. You don't have to be someone that's in, big entertainment. This is grassroots environment to support grassroots. And maybe that you're not grassroots. I don't know. Then we're honored to have you on with us if you're not grassroots. But that's what this platform is for. Anybody that has a business and it's positive, we just want to support, add another voice to Black media. And that's what we're here. And we couldn't have wanted and hope for a better guest than you. You've done an excellent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes. I truly enjoyed it today.
Thank you, Monique. And I want to make sure I got your sites right. So social media, you're at the Self-Care Immersion, and your website is holisticselfcareinstitute.com.
Yes, that's me.
What I'm going to do is I'll put that into the comments on YouTube as well as Facebook, so people can find you there too. But thank you so much again, Monique. I really, really appreciate you taking this time.
Thank you. Thank you once again. All right.
See you next time.